Hi, good morning, John. Thanks for joining us today. It's great for you to be on this episode of the Business Spotlight. We're really excited that you've joined us and that we're going to learn a little bit more about yourself and your business. So the goal of the Business Spotlight is going to be to learn a little bit more about you for us to help inspire our viewers and listeners today. And if anyone's thinking about sort of starting that journey of entrepreneurship, hopefully they'll get a little bit more out of this interview. So John, if you could just start us off by telling the viewers who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing it for.
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. My name is Jon Pettit. I'm founder of Safeguard Me. Safeguard Me is a startup, ostensibly. We are a digital passport that proves people's safer recruitment credentials. The reason we exist is that there are still too many poorly checked or unvetted individuals working with children or vulnerable adults. I'm sure we'll find out later on how I've arrived at this journey to date. We're currently working with organisations to ensure that their individuals have digital passports to prove their suitability to work with children and vulnerable adults, to cut down the cost and time associated with onboarding and hiring of individuals, and to ensure that there's a compliant workforce throughout a number of sectors.
Wow, no, that's brilliant. Well, that's great. So, John, what makes you stand out from other people or other industries like what with you do? How do you stand out more than others?
So we're quite new into this market. I say new into the market in terms of our product isn't really rivaled elsewhere. There are other organisations that do external checks, but our product is different. It places the candidate, the employee, at the centre of the process to ensure that the safe recruitment process can be speeded up. And that they can remain in control of their data and who's using their data at all times. And that process enables them to cut down time and to get them onboarded quickly and more compliantly. And what we're doing is we're flipping the recruitment cycle on its head so people can prove their suitability when they apply for jobs, rather than going through that recruitment process, the interview, and then hitting roadblocks when they go through the onboarding process, which could be 6 to 8 weeks further down the line. When people can prove their suitability to start off with, okay, it's beneficial for them, but it's more beneficial for those organisations to ensure that their recruitment process is as compliant and as smooth as possible.
Wow, brilliant. That's great. Thanks for that share, John. So what's your journey been like? I mean, from the start, from its original sort of beginnings to sort of where you are now.
I didn't start in this industry, in the tech industry. The disadvantage I have being in the industry is that I'm not a developer, I'm not a coder. And that does provide issues in terms of trying to develop the product further. But the journey started with recruitment. My personal journey started in education, through the education system. I was a teacher and worked in a local authority. And when I found it difficult to recruit, for the organisation I was working for, I decided to set up the UK's first subject-specific recruitment agency for physical education, that was. To date, we've dealt with over 1,500 organisations around the world, and our number one principle was to ensure that whoever we supplied to those organisations was safe to work with children and had been through all the necessary checks. We found it very difficult and very time consuming to complete those checks. It's very paper based, it's very fragmented, and you're collecting data from a variety of different sources. We wanted to come up with a system that was a single source of truth that collated all that data into one digital record. And it's been several years in the making. We first had the concept several years ago, and have talked and interviewed lots and lots of people from different sectors to get to the date where we are, to date, with the product that we have. So we realized the need out there. We realized that this is a new product, a new way of working, which is a challenge. But we are steadfast not only in our belief that every individual should be safe to work with children and vulnerable adults, but also that our product can have a huge success and an impact across a number of sectors.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great share again. So, John, what's the future look like for you? I mean, you say you've got some main challenges sort of coming up there. So where do you see the future for you in the business?
So we've concentrated at the moment on the international aid sector. So you may remember a few years ago, there was a huge scandal around Oxfam staff working in different parts of the world. being accused of various incidences of sexual abuse, exploitation, and harassment, but then picking up their suitcase and moving across to another part of the world undetected and starting that whole process again. The sector as a whole has demonstrated a real appetite to improve. In a recent webinar, we did 100% of organisations said the sector needs to improve their safer recruitment standards. 95% of those businesses also said that their own organisation needs to improve. So we're concentrating on that particular sector in association with the government's Foreign Office, who have tried to implement something called the Aid Worker Registration Scheme on the back of that Oxfam scandal. So the idea behind that is that every individual that's working in international aid sector, and it's a £150 billion industry, every individual that works in that sector has the credentials to ensure that they're safe to deliver that international aid, whether that's on behalf of the UK government, any other government or private NGO or private business working across the sector. So the challenges for us are, it's an education piece ostensibly. Every organisation does something. Their standards aren't where they should be, but they try to implement certain things and certain processes, but they're unsuccessful a lot of the time. The processes they've got are long-winded and inefficient, and that's where we step in to say there's an easier way, there's a better way, there's a more efficient way and more compliant way for you to recruit and onboard your staff.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Well, that's great. So, Jon, moving on to yourself as the business owner, what would you say has been your biggest lesson to date for anyone out there that's sort of watching this today that just stands out so that we can share that with them?
There's a number. I mean, you always learn, don't you? Every day's a school day. And I think if you don't continue to learn and don't continue to explore new innovative ways of working and developing your product or services, and if you stand still, then you're in effect, you're moving backwards. I think at times in the business that we had, the recruitment business, we stood still for too long. Maybe if it's going well, you bask in a little bit of glory, you maybe become a touch complacent and take your eye off the ball. And the moment you do that and you think you have succeeded is the moment that you do start moving backwards. So you constantly need to innovate. You constantly need to be fluid in the way that you look at things, in the way that you progress and develop. But also a number of other things like making sure you surround yourself with the best possible people. You listen to advice, you seek advice, you get mentors. So I think, that education and to be continually inquisitive and want to learn about how to progress yourself, but ultimately how to progress your business is really key to success.
Yeah, no, that's a really great one. I think it's true for many business owners that I speak to, that they say that it's that sort of daily learnings. I mean, every day is a school day. So yeah, never a truer word spoken. So yeah, thanks for that, Jon. Great share. So humour me, if you will, Jon. If we sort of just go back in time, what's the best piece of advice that you could give your 18-year-old self that you could use to start a business? So going back from where you are now with all the knowledge that you've got back to that 18-year-old Jon, what piece of advice or pieces of advice would you give to that 18-year-old Jon?
It's a long way to cast my mind back to be honest. But I think failure is not a dirty word. Yeah. It's okay to fail. Some of the biggest businessmen and most successful businesses in the world have failed in certain ventures or failed in certain product lines or whatever. So failure is okay as long as you can learn from that failure. And I think a lot of the time people have great business ideas, really great business ideas, but they are crippled with that fear of failure and not wanting that business to not be successful. So it's looking at the risks, taking calculated risks, but not fearing something going wrong, but ultimately being able to be reflective if something does go wrong, saying, well, how could I have done that better? What have I learned and how can I implement that in the future? And I think I probably would have started my first business sooner if I'd maybe listened to that now, or if someone had given me that advice. Yeah. But hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Isn't it just? Isn't it just? That was a great share, though. Thank you for that. Really appreciate that, John. So, what inspires you? What inspires you to do what you do on a daily, weekly, monthly business? Is it sort of, your family? Is it the team you work with, the customers, the podcasts like this? What is it that truly inspires you, John?
I'm a firm believer that you've got to do something in life, whatever your job is, career, whether it's a business or you're working for someone else, you have to do something that you enjoy. I love working on Safeguard Me. It's a real challenge. I like pushing myself. I like the test. I like to be able to prove people wrong. Ultimately, when I set my own business up, I wanted the freedom and choice. It was very much a lifestyle business. I had 3 small children that I wanted to watch and watch grow up and be there for them. And I never missed an assembly or a sports day. So it very much allowed me and afforded me that opportunity to have that freedom. But moving forward, as they're growing up and getting older, it enables you to have a different outlook. And my passion now is that I'm told day in, day out about our product and how brilliant it is and how it's needed, why hasn't this been done before? And it's taking that feedback and turning it into something that does succeed and does work. And I want to be able to sit back and say, we did it, we made that, we got it to market, and it's been a success. And it's that drives me. I know that our product's good. I know that there's a need for it, and it's just being able to make sure that we can deliver on that opportunity that we have in front of us.
Yeah. No, that's really powerful stuff. Thanks for that, John. That is really, really powerful stuff. So, lastly, John, is there any news or offers that you'd like to share with our viewers today? Or it could just simply be a link to your website or how to connect with you.
Well, the website is www.safeguard-me.co.uk. You can find out the information on there. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Feel free for anyone to reach out on LinkedIn. I'm always interested to connect with other business owners or other organizations that have recruitment struggles and recruitment problems, particularly obviously those that are working with children and vulnerable adults. In terms of offers, we're very much starting out. So we've built our MVPs out there. We've got users testing the product. So it's a case of watch this space in the next few months. When we start our pilot project in the international aid sector, we'll then be rolling it out through other sectors, through education, sport, and finally, hopefully, in the medical industry as well. So, yeah, feel free for anyone that's watching this to reach out to me, because I'm always interested to connect with other like-minded individuals.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for that, John. So that's it. That's a wrap for our interview with Jon Pettit at Safeguard Me. Thank you so much, John, for joining us today. And I'm sure that there's some real valuable stuff that our viewers and listeners today are going to get from this. So until next time, from me, I'll see you all very soon. And again, John, thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Bye for now.